Welcome back to the Triple J Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Phil Rasmussen, and we're back with another episode. Today's episode is the first branch off in the multi-sport efforts here on the show. Today, we get to venture off into the world of soccer with a longtime friend of mine, former college roommate, Eric Kronberg, a retired former MLS goalkeeper for both Kansas City and the Montreal MLS teams after a career as a goalkeeper at both Cal and Fresno State, where he and I both met and were roommates for multiple years. Eric is now living up in the Pacific Northwest and currently running a business up in that area that we dig into. So Eric's story is awesome. One of my great friends. Back to my years of college, over 20 years. Very successful professional career, successful husband and father. But a real testament to the grind and the work ethic and staying the course. And his journey's awesome. Lots of great insights as a player and as a coach. And I'm excited to bring you into the background for Eric Kronberg. So without further ado, hope you all enjoy Triple J Sports Podcast coming at you. All right, welcome back to the Triple J Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Phil Rasmussen, back with another episode and excited to take a shift today into another world and another sport and take a journey back down memory lane with a longtime friend, former roommate, and soccer pro veteran, Eric Kronberg, Fresno State, Cal goalie, followed by a 12-year MLS career and blocking balls successfully and unsuccessfully so throughout his career. Eric, my man, welcome to the show, dude.
What's up, Phil? How you doing, man? Good to see you, dude. It's been a while. I feel like the last time I saw you, we looked a lot better and younger.
Speak for yourself, man. I don't know. You do have some grays on the side of your head, and that is
they are showing up, man.
Alarming.
They're showing up, and you're just masking it with that beard, bro.
Just for men, baby. I'm calling right now for an ad partnership. Just for men. I am your best client. I promise you.
Yeah.
So
that's a good look.
That's right. That's right. We got to do what we can to hide it, right? No shame in the game. But
I can't even grow a beard, man. So like,
I was just gonna say you don't have facial hair, assassin. So.
Yeah,
that's like you're going to be on your last legs of life and still be waiting for your first chin hair.
Mm-hmm.
So
I'm waiting. It's coming one of these days, I think. But I can't wait to start shaving. I'm still like doing the toothpaste and then the toothbrush. Like you were when you're 12. Waiting for those first hairs coming. No.
Hey, man. But, we all have our thing. We all have our thing. Like we were talking about before. Not all of them are good, but we've got them.
Nope.
We've got them. Well, dude, so for the audience here, right? If you're a basketball fan, not a major soccer fan, Eric and I have always had a running joke over the years about which sport is cooler. I'm already losing because my son thinks Eric is way cooler than I am because he played soccer and was a goalie. So I might be losing that bet, this point in life. But Eric was a 12-year veteran goalie in the MLS in the early stages after playing at Fresno State and Cal, and we got some great stories. 4th-round draft pick by the Kansas City MLS team, which back then was known as the Wizards. We'll have to get into that name at a different point. We got to know each other back in the early 2000s at Fresno State. And Eric has a great story, is now in the working world, married and father, kind of keeping his head above water. But let's jump in, dude, to like, you got to start somewhere. We talked a little before the show the last couple of days about your journey, man, and kind of how it all got started and your mom and your dad and kind of what led you down the path. So talk a little bit about your early childhood sports upbringing and some of those moments that kind of, crafted what became an awesome professional career for you, man.
Born and raised in Santa Rosa. Got into soccer when I was probably 5 or 6, like every kid, and was a pretty good little player when I was growing up. Turned into a goalkeeper probably because I'm kind of a chill person and I was tall. I remember I made like the little select team when I was 9 or 10 years old. And they're like, who wants to be goalie? And I don't even know if I raised my hand. They're like, well, you're tall, you want to try? And I was like, yeah, sure, I'll get a shot, sure. And from then on, I was a goalkeeper for a couple years, and then actually didn't make that team when I was 12, or 11, and had to go back down to like a lower level in like kind of a rec league. They call it the B team. There's like A, B, and C back in the day. So the A team was like the city team. The B team was kind of regional a little bit. And then C team was totally rec. And so I played for this like kind of Bennett Valley team, which is a part of Santa Rosa, and played on the field. Actually had a great time and stuff. And that was actually really cool because all my friends at school were on that team with me. But when I was on the A team, I was like, there's no one else at school that was on the team with me, So I was kind of like this. For me, it felt like I was a little bit of a superhero. I have this thing that nobody knows about that I'm really good at, and it kind of gave me some confidence and pride and stuff. But when I was on the B team, I actually like went down a level, and then all of a sudden I was cool because I was on the team with everyone else, and I was good. But I spent a year on the B team. Actually, one thing that was kind of evolving as I was young was goalkeepers playing with their feet. Like, so you had to be really good with your feet. Back when I was really young, you could pass the ball back to the goalkeeper and you could just pick it up, right? But they changed that rule where the goalkeeper couldn't pick it up anymore. And so they changed. So now you have to be kind of good with your feet. They started building out. There was a whole bunch of new philosophies with using the goalkeeper and stuff like that. So this 1 year that I didn't make the A team or whatever ended up being a total blessing for me because I got really good with my feet. And the following year after that, I tried out again. There's a whole story behind that where I didn't make this. I was on the team and then I didn't make the team. And then I was like humiliated, right? I did not want to be around these kids that were on the A team that were that were better than me and all this stuff. And I didn't want to go back to that, right? So I was done playing with the A team. And my mom is someone that kind of saw something in me. She was like, you should try out again. I was like, no way, I don't want to do that. And she's like, no, I think that you should try out again. And I said, okay, fine, I'll try out again and whatever. And I couldn't believe I agreed to it. I was reluctant to get out of the car and all that. She kind of kicked me out of the car and I tried out again and it's what a blessing, right? That my mom gave me in that moment where I could have gone the path of giving up and probably not playing soccer anymore. And I decided to go the other way with the help of my mom and her confidence in me. And she saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. And so I tried out again. And I remember, kind of impressing as a goalkeeper. And this time they were starting to get a little bit older. So they wanted a backup goalkeeper that could also play in the field. And I kind of fit that role. So I decided to try out, and they liked it, and they liked what I did. And I did well enough to make the team kind of as just a reserve player, backup goalie, bench player. And as that season went on, I won that spot back for two reasons. I was a pretty good goalkeeper, and I was getting better and better. I was coming into my body. I was always tall. I was born tall. I'm 6'5". But those couple years when I was 11 and 12, I was like a puppy dog, right? Like I was real lanky and awkward and all that. And so I was kind of coming out of that a little bit. And so I was getting into my body. And the other kid that was the goalie, he ended up being a pretty good field player. So he ended up moving onto the field, and I became the goalkeeper. And then from then on, I was a goalkeeper for that club team. And we had a lot of success for Santa Rosa. We're a pretty small town north of the Bay, and we're competing against, Sacramento. I hate kids from Sacramento. I still do. We're
Must be
competing
why
against
you
the
hate
Bay
me the way you
Area,
do,
San
man.
Jose,
Fair
all
enough,
those teams. But we held our own, man. We won a couple state cups and stuff and penalty kicks. And I had a bunch of saves and stuff, and had a good little career as a youth soccer player, and became really focused and trained my butt off, and was fortunate enough to get recruited. I had probably 4 or 5 schools that recruited me at a high school. I didn't have the best grades at a high school, kind of like a 3.0 student, and kind of immature, but I was really focused on soccer, and decided on Fresno State, which is kind of a crazy decision if you think about it, because Fresno is such a beautiful town. No, Fresno's awesome. I actually love it. But a couple things. One, I had a couple other teammates that I'd been on the state team with that ended up going there, so I knew we were going to be decent. My dad was born and raised in Fresno, and he talked so highly about the Sierra Nevada mountains and the city itself. And his father was a park ranger in the summers. He's a music teacher during the school year, and then he's a park ranger in the Sierra Nevadas and the King Sequoia National Park. And so he got to go up and go fishing in the summer and go skiing in the winter and all that. And that sounded like that was really attractive to me. And obviously it was such a sports town, something similar. I played for Kansas City as a pro and all that, but it's something similar to Fresno. Like, if there's not a ton to do in the area, in that valley, I just feel like people gravitate towards sports, and me and you, we both got to experience the culture, the sports culture at Fresno State, and I think it's still strong. I remember leaving Santa Rosa, coming to Fresno, moving into those apartments, the Bulldogs, and opening the door and seeing this tall, lanky kid with his mom putting stuff away, and that was Phil. And then we actually had another roommate who was Rob Santos, and he was on the soccer team with me. And he's a funny dude, and I haven't talked to him in a while. Have you talked to our Santos? Like, when was the last time
I
you
have
talked to
not.
Santos, man?
I haven't, and for me, I remember, that moment of coming down to school, the car ride with the parents, being in I'm heading off to college, and literally knowing I'm just totally entering into a world I'm not even sure if I'm good enough for yet. Don't know, excited, and living with 2 soccer guys, and not being a soccer connoisseur growing up. Like, how did this happen? But excited, and remember the equivalent to the opposite. Rob was captain conversation, and you walked in, and I'm pretty sure I got like 2 words out of you for the first 45 minutes.
Yeah.
What's up? What's up? But
I'm a slow
Mom
burn.
was there. What's that? It's slow burn.
I'm a slow burn, man.
That's right. Yeah. I remember my mom was in there basically setting me up, and we're off to the races. But yeah, that was such a wild thing for I think both of us, as you're leaving your towns, kind of hometowns, and now you're in these apartment complexes, and it's athletes, and you're just all mixed up, and athletes and girls, and everybody's right there on campus, but not the dorms. So yeah, cool town. And like you said, Fresno is the equivalent to kind of a college, is like a pseudo NBA, pseudo NFL, pseudo everything for pro sports. But yeah, it was an interesting time. And your journey in terms of the soccer space was kind of an interesting one, because freshman year I was definitely had a different playing experience, was suiting up, playing a couple minutes, then redshirt, and then playing. You were very much like kind of waiting behind a veteran proven keeper, and talk a little about like that, like first couple from like the experience side of now landing and sitting and watching, and kind of journey through that, and like we've talked about in the past. And I remember how your parents were during that time, like and all of that.
Yeah. So, like, obviously we all had a little bit of imposter syndrome, especially as freshmen, right? And I remember going on my recruiting trip to Fresno State and just hitting it off. Like, the guys on the team were super cool. I remember there was a party the night of, they had a game or something like that, and there was a party, and got to sit in the party and hang out with the team and stuff. And it was a cool party in the Bulldogs, and they were playing Bombs Over Baghdad by Outkast, and the soccer team had like a dance off, dude. And these two guys were like dancing, singing, and dancing to Bombs Over Baghdad. And I thought it was the funniest thing ever. Just like cool guys, and they really like brought me in and took me under their wing. And that was one of the big reasons. Also, I had a great recruiting trip. You know, just kind of vibe. When you vibe with the team, you know, it's something that sticks with you. And they did a good job of you know. Sometimes you go on a recruiting trip and people are threatened by you. Sometimes you go on a recruiting trip and it's just the vibe's off, and the vibe was good with the team there. But yeah, so there was a goalkeeper there, and he was a junior my freshman year, and he was a very good goalkeeper. His name was Jeremy Proud, and he was going to be a junior, then a senior, and he was the guy, you know. So the toughest thing about being a goalkeeper is there's only one guy on the field at a time, right? So I had to be pretty patient, and I did not play a minute of college soccer until my third year. So I played my first year I redshirted. Second year I didn't play at all the second year either, you know. Yeah. And after that, after my second year of not playing a minute of college soccer for 2 years, they cut the program. So they're like, okay, we need to make some cuts to balance out for Title IX. We're going to add, I think they added women's golf, and there's like word that men's soccer was going to be cut, and we're like freaking out, you know, like, what are we going to do? I never played a minute, like I'd never proven myself at all, and so they ended up cutting men's soccer before I even got a minute to play, and that was pretty tough for me. But there was like a glimmer of hope, like, well, if you guys just like raise, I can't remember, like $178,000, something like that, you guys can fund another year, and I know this was kind of sudden, so maybe you can fund another year and get back on your feet that way. So we somehow did it. Remember we had like bake sales and car washes, bikini car washes and stuff.
I was gonna say, I'm pretty sure you guys were out there in thongs and G-strings washing cars and actually having to pay people to come and tolerate it. But I'm not sure how you actually raised the money, but
I think we lost money on the bikini car wash.
I'm pretty sure you did.
I don't know. I think we had to, it didn't work as well.
I'm pretty sure that was unsuccessful.
But somehow we came up with the money, you know, and I think my parents actually like donated some money too. And it's not like my family has made of money, but it's another thing that just one of those signs that, you know, my parents really believed in me and what I could do. And they want to give me that chance. And it's not like they saved the program or anything, but they gave a little bit what they could, you know, a little bit they could. And we somehow ended up raising enough money to fund another season ourselves. So we had one more season, and this was like my chance to finally play on a Division I soccer team. And you can imagine the recruiting class that we got, you know, hey, you want to come to the school? They're circling the drain. And you're going to be able to play soccer for 1 year, you know, like what a pitch, right. You know? So we didn't have the best recruiting class. But the good thing about it is I got absolutely shelled for a whole year. And, you know, I set the school record in saves. I think I had 106 saves that year, which is, I think, a lot for a college year. And we won, I don't know, we won a handful of games. It's not like we were over, you know, we won a handful of games. We did okay. I remember we got this forward who was lightning fast. He's like a track star. And he like couldn't even kick a ball and couldn't head a ball. And so they're always telling me to target this kid. And I guarantee you, he never won a header all year. He never won one. And I think he maybe scored 1 goal all year. And that was like our star forward. But but we were able to hold it down decently enough to win a handful of games and stuff. And I finally got my chance. And one thing that's cool with my parents, they went to every single game, and that's including the games the first 2 years. So they went to every game that I didn't play, and I was redshirting. They went to every game, and I'm not talking about home games. They went to Vegas. We went to Vegas, and they went to Vegas and saw me play. Maybe there's some other reasons they wanted to go to Vegas, but but they went to every home and away game that I was a part of, and I sat the bench for 2 years. I remember they were telling a story. They're like, "Hey, the coach came up to us after the game today, and they're like." And he was like, your son's not playing, right? And they're like, yeah, we know. We're just, here to support the team, And I think that was the word team was something I learned from them. They were here to support me, yes, but like the team that I was on, they were here to support the team, even though I wasn't playing. They are fans of Fresno State soccer, which was really, really, a cool thing for them to do, and they didn't have to do that. And I think that it means a lot to me now, that they did that. And I was almost a little embarrassed that they'd come because I was like, I'm not playing, like my parents are still here. But
well, we always get to hang out with them after. We always got to have
we hung out with them after they came after, and we would hang out with them. And I remember we'd go to Denny's after the games or in the morning after, and I'd get 2 breakfasts. I'll get a grand slam and moons over my hammy,
and a salad to go with our ranch, and
salads, a couple leaves with the ranch,
salad to go with the ranch we were getting.
And no, it was I just had like really supportive parents, and even still today they're really just good parents, so I was fortunate there. But yeah, I finally got that chance to play and had a great season. And after that, they shut the doors. They're like, okay, doors are shut, and good luck finding places to play. And so I had to get re-recruited, and I was on the transfer market or transfer portal, whatever. I don't know if it was a transfer portal. They don't have a transfer portal back then, but I was able to transfer. And I think I didn't have to skip a season or anything like that because I didn't have a program anymore. So I got recruited by 3 or 4 schools. I think USF, San Diego State, and then Cal came after me. So I'd kind of not done well enough in high school to go to Cal, and then I got my grades up and was doing well enough in school to get recruited by Cal. And yeah, I remember that's one of those forks in the road, where earlier I was talking about my mom pushing me to try out for club soccer again. And here's another one where she just gives me a little nudge, and I have I remember 2 options. I had San Diego State. I didn't want to go to USF. I had San Diego State and I had Cal. And the big thing with Cal was, I had not gotten Cal grades, throughout my youth. I didn't feel like I deserved to go there. I didn't feel like I was smart enough to go there. I didn't feel like I was good enough to go there. And I got that little nudge, like, once again, go the harder route, and it wasn't something that they weren't demanding me. It was my choice, but just a little nudge. And, sometimes that's all it takes as a parent, is just like nudge your kid in the right direction and see what happens. And
well, I'll tell you, like you and I've talked about that story, and we talked about it again this week. I mean, the lesson for parents, coaches, right? The ability to, affect someone's confidence and direction. Belief is something that's an internal thing that we all have to develop, but it can be influenced by external belief, right? And the belief that your mom had in you that pushed you out the door and said, no, you're trying out again.
Yeah.
Set you on a path that, people dream of, right? Is, to be able to play professional sports and, to push you in the realm of challenging yourself and going to Cal versus the others. I think like those are huge things. Like seeing something in someone else that they don't yet see in themselves is one of the most, I think, powerful things you can have as far as an impact on another person, right? Is to give them
that's so true, man. Yeah. And like, as the person that didn't believe in myself when someone else believed in me, is really, as a leader now, has really, taught me a lot. Cause when I see something in someone, and even if they don't see it themselves, like, to give them that confidence and to see them succeed, it's super rewarding. But it's something I learned from my parents and my mom. Like she saw something in me, maybe, and maybe it was a gamble, but I think she saw something in me, and she's just supportive of me, and she picked those couple moments to when there's a fork in the road, to go the harder route and to challenge yourself, and she helped me do that. And so, I'll get a little choked up thinking about that, because it really led me to the life I have now. And the life I have a great life now. I had a great career playing soccer and learned so much, and have a great family and live up here in Oregon now. And those forks in the road, they wouldn't have happened without that nudge. You know what I mean? I don't know which way it would have gone, but now I know when I come to that fork, I know which way to go.
It taught you way more than the lesson itself. And yeah, I look at that, obviously a lot of the reason I felt so compelled to launch this podcast, and what I've spent most of my professional career focused on as a father, like instilling confidence in people and showing them belief that I have in them. I think it's one of the most rewarding things too, when you're able to give somebody that, and and when someone's done that for you. I know, like you and I've talked about it, just like you just shared, it has a huge, like, cascading effect in your life. And obviously it led down a path, and I want to circle back before we're done to some of our Fresno State memories, and get into that, and then we'll get into the PTSD I've had with the word moose for the last 25 years, thanks to you. But yes, but let's kind of go into the thing that I think is obviously such a cool part of your story, right? Which you go through that journey, and you're not heralded in many aspects throughout most of your playing career. At this point, you've kind of been underlined, not playing as a freshman, or a redshirt freshman, and then a freshman, going through that journey, being on a bad team, but taking advantage of the opportunity that a bad team presented to you, which is to get a lot of action at a position that if you're too good, you don't get much action.
Yeah, for sure.
And, like early years, I remember us hanging out in the back of the end zone and just screaming at you because we wanted to have fun with you before you got busy.
That's a nice way of putting it. I appreciate that.
Yeah, that's
well
the PC
done.
route of
let's go PC there.
Pre booze and pre 4-letter words. But
you couldn't have done that to the other damn goalkeeper, dude. You gotta sit behind me and roast me. Like, that's what I needed. There's another guy down the other side that, like, we're trying to beat, dude.
But he didn't react. You did. It was more fun. But all of that, your fortitude and your consistent, like you mentioned, being a low-key guy. I mean, you were low-key in a lot of respects, certainly as a friend and someone that we, rolled, whatever I'm down for. But as a competitor, you were intensely competitive and intensely driven, and you stayed the course, and then end up being drafted into the MLS and end up with a 12-year career as a professional goalie. And the kind of thing, like, to this day, you got me on that. I'll never win. You had your pro career, and I admire the hell out of you for the way that you went through your journey and kind of stuck not only through those parts of your journey, but the way that you approached it. And I think it's cool to obviously revisit it with you, but go through that part of your journey now. Tell us, like, how that unfolded, because that a lot of your story doesn't arrive at the conclusion that you're now being drafted into the MLS and gonna be a 12-year pro, at the highest level of soccer, right, in the United States.
Yeah, so I end up going to Cal, right? So I go to Cal, and right away, there was a goalkeeper there that had played the year before, and he was a good goalkeeper, man. Like, it was, I wasn't coming into a place where I'm the guy necessarily. I had to go win it, and I had to go take it from someone, and that was a challenge for me, but it was a good lesson for me. Like, I had to work hard, but at the same time, like, that goalkeeper unit, there's 3 or 4 guys usually. There's on every team you see 3 or 4 goalkeepers, and to be the starter often means like you have to take someone else's role and take someone else's job, and that was, man, it's not easy, first of all, to do, but then to maintain your confidence and stuff when you have other people breathing down your neck. And that's what professional sports is someone always breathing down your neck, man. And to live 12 years with someone breathing down your neck, it was always someone different. And in trying to hold on to your position while also pushing the guy in front of you, because a lot of times I was a backup as a pro. But I had a good 2 years at Cal, man. My first year, I ended up playing obviously a lot. And I think we made the Sweet 16 that year. And so I go from this kind of bottom of the barrel program to a well-established program. And there's also this guy named Henry Falk. He's still there, still coaching goalkeepers, but he is like a goalkeeper. He just generates pro goalkeepers. It's unbelievable, the list of goalkeepers he's produced. Before me, it was Josh Saunders, who had a long career in MLS. And then I played behind Josh Saunders, and I was like, in his shadow a little bit. But there was a guy named Mike Osigara in between there. He was a good goalkeeper too. So Mike was still on the team, but Josh had graduated out and started playing. And so I kind of had to take the role from Mike. And then after when I was a senior, Stephen Fry was a freshman, and he's had a tremendous career in MLS. He got drafted number 1 overall to Toronto, played a bunch of years there, and now he's been the Seattle Sounders goalkeeper for at least a decade, like maybe 15 years. He's been there forever, and he's still going, and I think they're still in playoffs. And he's just been a fantastic goalkeeper. It's been really fun to watch him. But he was a freshman when I was a senior, so I kind of got to take him along on his freshman ride, which is cool. He's a redshirt freshman and all that, but I could see a lot of potential in him when I was a senior. And then after after Stefan, there was Drake Callender, who's another MLS goalkeeper. There's Jurgen Klinsmann's son, Jonathan Klinsmann. He came out of Cal too, and he's playing over in Europe, and I think he's had stints in the national team and stuff like that. So it's just been a conveyor belt of goalkeepers from this guy Henry Falk. So if you're a young goalkeeper, you want to go to a really good goalkeeper school, get in contact with, because he'll help you get there. But I remember training with him. It was different training than I was used to, kind of anywhere. It was all about power. It was all about how far can you kick, how far can you punch, how high can you jump. And we just did rep after rep after rep of just giving you the tools, the strength, and those tools you need for the next level to mold you into a great goalkeeper. So
I was just going to ask that. So what you think makes him such a massively impactful coach, that obviously the results speak for themselves as far as the players go?
He had really high standards. The drills he did were totally unorthodox. He would get out like this big gymnastics mat that was kind of like a mat that you'd use for pole vaulting, like a big old mat, and he put it on half of the goal, and he would like volley shots to the upper V, the upper corner, over and over and over as hard as he can, and we'd run and jump and try and like tip balls over the top. And just get used to being as explosive as we possibly could. We were in the gym all the time. After training, we would smash balls as far as we could to each other. We would throw medicine balls as far as we could with both arms after every training. And so, like, you'd throw these medicine balls, and you'd throw a medicine ball maybe like 30 or 40 yards or whatever. And then you go to a soccer ball, and it felt like a balloon in your hand, and you just launch these things. And I just remember, I mean, every training was like that. And so he really has a system of developing goalkeepers at a high level. And also he was very honest and had a very high standard. So if I made a mistake in the game, it wasn't like something that was buried. We'd talk about it. You did this, what happened here? And so that was the first time in my career someone didn't necessarily care about like hurting my feelings to tell me the truth. And what a lesson that is for leadership. That's what people need to hear. If I have something on my face, I want to know. If I got mustard on my face, please tell me I got mustard on my face so I can wipe the mustard off and correct it. Don't let me walk around with mustard on my face all the time. And he's that first coach that I had that really would tell me when I was doing something wrong and how to correct it and what to do. And so that was, really good for me. And it also like thicken my skin a little bit to take criticism and stuff like that. So he was just probably the best goalkeeper coach I'd ever had. Maybe ever. Thinking back and throughout my career, I think he might be the best goalkeeper coach I've ever had. Just because that age is so critical from 18 to 22 when you're in college. If you get that right coach at the right time, he like that person can really develop you in the right way, because it's so vital. You look at, in Europe, we kind of our college system from 18 to 22, and in the youth academies, our youth academies pretty much match up to the best in Europe. But when you get to the 18 to 22, Europe excels. For some reason, Europe just takes over, and those players shoot off like a rocket, and our players kind of stand still a little bit. And I think that Henry's one of those people that helped me excel rather than stand still. But it's not like that everywhere. You know what I mean? So
he gave you the things that you needed to hear with the idea of making you better.
yeah,
And I think there's a lot of people that are afraid to have the uncomfortable conversations,
for sure.
are afraid to challenge people. But then this, like, I'm a broken record with it. Like, you're aware because of the relationship that you formed
Mhm.
and the foundation that was set, that what he's telling you is in your best interest, right? Like,
For
and
sure.
that you're versus just being criticized and beaten down and kind of creating a self-doubt. It's a more of a, I'm giving you this so you can get better.
For sure.
And I think that it's in every coach's kind of story.
Mm-hmm.
Once you have figured that piece out of how to deliver that and form that relationship, you can have such a massive impact on people and help them become successful, because you're now giving them the information they need to get better. What point did you know I have a legitimate shot of getting drafted? I'm probably going to get to continue on now and achieve a dream to play professional soccer.
I don't know if there's a moment that really clicked with me, like, oh, I'm going to be a pro now. It was something that, and I don't even know if I want to say I was chasing it. Like, I was just focused on getting better. That's all, and that's kind of how my whole career went. Like, I was just fascinated with getting better at something. That was all. Like, it wasn't like the results or being a pro was not necessarily the goal. The goal was to be as good as something as I possibly could. And I was
Yep.
it was fun for me, like how kids play video games and they build up a character. That's kind of how I thought of it. Like, every training was, how do I get better at this? How do I get better at that? How do I improve my angle? How do I get a little bit more power here? How do I, get better with handling here? And so I'd work on these things and just improve my video game character, basically. You know what I mean? And at the end of my senior year, I guess it was my super senior year or whatever, my 5th year or 4.5 year with Cal, we had a great run. We had some really good players. We had good defense. Kalen Carr was a forward, and he's a commentator in MLS now, and he's all over the place. But he was a great forward we had, and we had 3 players, me, Kalen, and a center back, Tyson Wall, that were drafted out of Cal that year. Kalen went pretty early, and I went a little bit later, but both me and Tyson went out to Kansas City. And the reason was we made the Elite Eight that year. I don't know if the program had ever made Elite Eight before, or maybe they had way long ago, but I'm not sure if they have since. But we made the Elite Eight. We played University of New Mexico in New Mexico, and they had some really good players too. But I remember that game we ended up losing 1-0 out of great game. You know, it's one of those moments where you never know when someone's watching, so you want to play to the best of your ability. But someone was watching that day, and that happened to be the Kansas City coach. He went to that game and he saw me play, and he picked 3 players out of that game. He picked me, Tyson Wall, who's my center back in front of me, and then he picked actually, I think he's an outside back. His name is Lance Watson, and he was on the New Mexico side actually. So all 3 of us got drafted out of one game. And the really cool story about that game was, we go to New Mexico, and it's not like I know anybody there or anything, but my youth coach from when I was in Santa Rosa, he was coaching in New Mexico at the time, and he shows up and he's at the game, and he goes, and after the game we had lost. I was a little upset and stuff like that, but I go and have dinner with my parents. Obviously they were there and him. And I go and I have dinner with my youth coach. And this is the youth coach that really helped me turn a corner in terms of, like, we went from a good team to a great team with this coach, right? And his name was Ron Blue, and he was a guy that cared. He had that care factor. He cared about this team. He cared about the players, and it was so cool that he got to see me play in an Elite Eight game, and we got to grab a beer after, and he was just like telling me how proud he was of me and stuff like that. And I was like, damn, I'm glad I made you proud, dude. Like, you meant a lot to me growing up, and I'm glad that you get to see me at this peak where I had this fantastic game in front of all these people. And this was University of New Mexico had a great crowd back in the day. There was thousands of kids there, and they were educated in terms of knowing my family. Like, you knew, you roasted me when you were standing behind me. That was good training for these New Mexico kids that like knew my mom's name, my sister's name, and they were saying everything they possibly could to get me off my game. But it was good to see Ron Blue there and have dinner with him and my parents after the game. And in my college career is over, but it was kind of a circle of life where I got to have dinner with one of the guys that started my career, so that was a special moment. But yeah, Bob Gansler was there, and he was a Kansas City coach, and he ended up drafting us.
You and I've talked about this in the past, but like that experience, at the time, I think proves the point, like loving the game, competing, and realizing that, for professional athletes, like, people see the glamour of playing in games, as kind of the experience, but the truth is it's the grind behind the scenes that makes people great, right? That makes winners, that makes pros. And even at the pro level, there's a grind. And I think, talk a little bit about what it was like being early MLS in Kansas City with the Chiefs, and what it was like to share practice facilities and, be in that environment, because you're a pro to the world, right? And to kids and sports, but not necessarily the experience that you would think, right, in terms of the environment. And back to the point of, like, you're there and you love the game and you're competing. But I think that's a great story to tell.
Yeah, so Kansas City was my first year. I was a third string goalkeeper there. They had two ahead of me. Will Hessmer was the second string, and Bo Ashani was the first string. Tony Miola, which was like one of the greatest goalkeepers of all time for the United States, had just retired maybe a year or two before that. And they had some success there, but we basically shared a training facility with the Chiefs, right? So we played, there's a soccer field, and then the 2 or 3 Chiefs fields next to it. And we could never train while they're training. A couple times, like, the Chiefs would be like, the kickers would stay after and work on hitting field goals and stuff like that. And we like we'd be training, and if a ball rolled onto the field with like 2 guys on the field, we'd have to like wait, like stop practice. We'd have like a special person have to go over and get the ball and stuff. And it was just like, it was so clear that the Chiefs were the priority. We were here like kind of to, as the stepchild, right? Like we were the stepchild, and I was the 3rd string keeper on that team. And I remember the first couple weeks, I was always like, work harder than everyone else. That's how you're going to make it. Work harder than everyone else. And I was always moving. So with goalkeepers, you do a drill, right? You collect the balls. You use like 10 to 12 balls. The coach would shoot, you make a bunch of saves, and then the balls go all over the place, right? The balls you make saves, some are in the net because you don't save them all, but they're
So
all
most
over the
of
place.
yours are in the net. I know,
but most of mine are in the net for sure. So mine are easy to collect, but I went and collect everyone else's. So like
team player.
Yeah. So I was like hustling after I was like immediately I get up, finish my reps. I'm chasing balls, collecting for the next drill. And that's something that's still ingrained in me. Like I go shag balls. Like every time I'm playing soccer, if there's a ball where it's not supposed to be, my daughter, I'll go if she's out coaching or playing with her team and there's balls. It's like ingrained in me. I shag balls and put them where they're supposed to be, so the next drill can happen or the next thing can happen. Because I don't know. It's I've always been that way. And I remember the goalkeeper coach at the time, his name was Dave Tenney. He was like, you can chill. You can relax a little bit, man. You're working so hard and I love it, but you're on this team. And that was interesting for me to hear because I didn't know. A lot of people get drafted and you don't know if you're on the team or not, right? You could get cut at any time. And he was telling me like, no, you're here for the year. You're here you're on this team now. And that did not make me chill at all. It's like probably make me work harder. I was like even getting after it more. But it was cool to hear like, yeah, you're going to be a signed player, and it's not like I was making big money or anything. Back then, the league was structured very differently, where we had a reserve league and reserve players, and then we had kind of first team players. And usually the first team guys are like 1 through 18, and then the rest are reserve. And the reserve league was built for local talent, to develop local talent, but it was not used like that at all. They recruited or they drafted players from all over. I came from California, Kansas City, and they put you on that reserve salary. And I think it was like $18,000 a year, like it was barely making ends meet. I had to immediately go get, coaching gigs. I coached at a high school. I had private coaching and stuff like that just to try and get by. And I lived with 2 or 3 other players, and we had like a little duplex we lived in with 3 or 4 bedrooms. Like I think we had 3 bedrooms. It was me and Tyson, who I went to college with, and this guy, Stephen Shirley. And we lived right by the plaza, which is kind of like a cool area in Kansas City. And we just grinded for years. And then after that, I kind of became the backup in Kansas City. They brought in Kevin Hartman for a long time, and I had a long career as a backup. But there's a ton of stories to go into, my career in Kansas City. I probably have the record, which is another interesting thing. I think I have the record for going the longest career in MLS without ever playing an MLS game, which is like, talk about having to be patient, So I was in Kansas City playing behind Kevin Hartman, who was one of like the league legends. He's got all sorts of like records in terms of minutes played and stuff like that. And he was a great goalkeeper. And I remember one off season I was training and I kind of hurt my shoulder a little bit. And, I was just trying to get better in the off season. I heard a kind of crack in my shoulder and got an MRI, and it showed up clear and everything, but it still hurt. And that season I continued to play on it all season. I remember falling on it a couple times and hurting myself but I had a great season. Like I was the captain of the reserve team and stuff, and Kevin was doing well, but he's getting kind of older and stuff. And at the end of the year, they were talking to me, and at my end of the year meeting, they're like, you had a great year. You really, your leadership really shined with the reserve team. We think you can go become the starter for this team. Just go get that shoulder checked out. And we'll make you an offer. And so, I've been waiting this is probably 6 or 7 years into my career, man. This is a long time. I've been waiting a long time to finally get my chance. And I go get an MRI on my shoulder, and my rotator cuff and labrum are completely torn. And so I'd been playing on this injury for a year, and just fighting through it. But I remember a couple of times, like I'd out injured on a Thursday or something like that, and Saturday come around, I'm on the bench, and I'm like, man, I can barely lift my shoulder. Like it's gonna be a challenge to get through if I have to go in. But anyway, so I have this surgery, and it knocks me out the whole next year. So, that one chance where I think like I'm finally going to break in, probably at a good time when I'm 26, 27 years old, all of a sudden I'm sidelined, and they have to bring in a new goalkeeper because I was injured. And they brought in they get rid of Kevin after that year, and they brought in this guy, Jimmy Nielsen, another fantastic goalkeeper and just great person. I haven't spoken to him in a while, but great friend. And I ended up being his backup for a couple more years. And 2013, we finally win the championship. And Jimmy's a big part of it. He was a great leader. I learned a lot of my leadership lessons from him in terms of like negotiating from higher up and representing the team well and stuff like that. But finally we won in 2013, and Jimmy retired. So 2014 is my year. So I finally got my chance to start. And I remember in that preseason, we were playing someone. We were down in Orlando, because we go down to Orlando and play these little tournaments for preseason. And I took this knock in my shin, and I got this like goose egg on my shin, and I didn't think much of it. And then all that fluid drained down in my ankle. And I had this big old swollen ankle that just killed. I couldn't even move my ankle. And our openers coming up, we're playing in Seattle. And but the day before, I'm trying to take goal kicks. I can't kick it out of the box. I can barely kick the ball. And I gotta start this game in Seattle in front of 70,000 people tomorrow. And I'm like, how am I going to do this? And I give it a shot the next day. I'll warm up, loosen it up a little bit. And I remember I had to, they gave me some painkillers or something like that. Nothing serious, but maybe some anti-inflammatories. I think that really helped calm it down. And I was like sweating before the game during my warm up. I could get through like the goalkeeper stuff, but I couldn't kick. And I remember like feeling my ankle, felt okay. And I took some goal kicks, and I could get them over half field. And I was like, if I can get over half field, I feel like I can get through the game all right. And I was hitting them okay, and I could get them over half field, but I like figured it out, 20 minutes before the game start. And so I go, and we have our season opener in Seattle, and we do okay. I think we lose 1-0, kind of late goal. But I got through it, and then got to kind of play through the rest of up until June. I was doing really well. I remember we came here to Portland, had a great game, ended up being player of the month in June. So I was like flying, right? Player of the month in MLS in June. And July 9th, I break my right hand. I was
that's an important thing. Like player of the month, right? You're peaking, hitting your stride with the grind that you've been on. And then break the hand. Yeah. So I broke my 4th metacarpal in my hand. And basically what happened, I was in training, and the wheels, or the goals have these wheels on them. I don't know if you ever go see a soccer goal, a lot of them have these wheels on them. And basically they can flip down so you can move the goals easily, right? And I remember someone took a shot, or a ball deflected or something, and it goes over my head. And like me, I go for everything. I'm trying to make the save, and stupidly, I try and jump and make the save. It's clearly already a goal, and I end up landing on this wheel, right on my hand, right on this wheel, and break my hand. And I remember talking to the coach after, and he was just like, "You got to protect yourself in training, man. Like you're going for everything. You have to be a little bit smarter." And it's a really good point,
And later on in my career, this guy I used to play with, his name's Evan Bush, another great goalkeeper in Montreal, but he's like, availability is the best ability. And that's a great saying, because, if you knock yourself out, that's the moment someone else can take your spot, right?
That's right.
And that's kind of what happened, right? There's another good goalkeeper there named Andy Grunbaum, and I broke my hand, so I was out, and he took over and did well enough to keep us, in the playoff race and stuff like that. And then he got hurt, though, kind of right when it was too early for me to come back. I wasn't comfortable coming back, but he got hurt, and the only other option was this kid, John Kempen, who was a good goalkeeper, but he was still maybe a little young or something like that. And so we had this Champions League game down in Costa Rica that I forced myself to play in just because I'm a competitor, and it was probably too soon, and gave up some soft goals, and then kind of finished the year in a sputter. Just didn't have my confidence and stuff like that. And after that, I was done in Kansas City. Basically, they said, thanks, but no thanks. Great first half of the year, but you're not playing your best right now. So I ended up, technically, I got dropped from Kansas City and then picked up by Montreal. And Montreal picked up my contract right after that. So they saw the potential in me and stuff like that, and they signed me up. And so I went to Montreal. But because I played that game in Saprissa, that's a Champions League game. Montreal was also in the Champions League. And so I was cup tied. I couldn't play in the tournament anymore. So Evan Bush played in the tournament and stuff, and had a fantastic tournament. He was lights out. And so, hats off to him. He had a great tournament, but in the final, he had a yellow card accumulation. So if you get like yellow cards in multiple games, like 3 or 4 games, then you have to sit out a game. It's kind of like a red card. So he got a yellow card accumulation. So he couldn't play in the final, and I was cup tied. So they had to bring in another kind of random goalkeeper. This guy, Christian Nietzsche, I think his name is, a German guy. And he basically came in for one game to play the Champions League final against America, I think, in Montreal, and we ended up losing the game and stuff like that. But that would have been a heck of a game to play in. I wish I could have played in that. Yeah. So that was the start of my transition from Kansas City to Montreal.
That's a wild. It's wild listening to like the soccer world, like just kind of the rules and like all the like the contract pickups and the being cup tied and honestly just that design. But you said something that's really I think one of the most important lessons for anything in life, right? It's consistency at being able to show up and be there, and being able to be healthy, being capable of performing the job is one of the things that we all have to kind of figure out how to do in life and in general. And in sports, it's maybe no better example than being a goalie in soccer, when there's only one person that can be on the field at a time, and there's getting back on is predicated on one specific person.
For sure.
I think it's an interesting perspective that you bring when you're in that lane, when there's not another way to get on the field or on the court. What do you think of like the progression of the league, soccer in the US and kind of the world is today? Because when you and I were college roommates, and the world of soccer in Europe versus the US, like talk about the progression in the US.
I think that it's continuing to progress. It's heading in the right direction for sure. It's always fun to be on social media and seeing people, kind of regular people, talking about MLS, and obviously Messi's a big part of that, and just talking about soccer in general. I think it's really become ingrained in our culture, similar to basketball and football and baseball and stuff like that. Like there's a lot of it's a popular sport. It used to be just kind of like a popular sport for kids to play. But I think that more and more people are understanding like the nuance of the game, the beauty of the game, that and the complexity of the game. And as a player and as someone that knows the game, you watch crowds, and a good way to understand if it's an educated crowd is when they clap. You know, what are they clapping for? You know, are they clapping for, are they clapping for the t-shirt cannon? They used to clap for the t-shirt cannon back when I was in Kansas City. That's what they'd all, the crowd would get loud and then t-shirt cannon came out, you know, and people run around with the t-shirt cannon. That was like the big thing. And now it's like when a winger tracks back 60 yards and defends, like that's an educated fan base that's clapping for that. You know what I mean? And there's situations like, yeah, like, wow, they're clapping for that they understand the game. They understand how impressive what that person just did was, you know? And so it's really cool to see that progression where the fan base is getting more and more educated. I still don't think it's there with, you know, European soccer or football and baseball, because it's still like maybe 2 generations in now. And these are like 3, 4, 5 generations deep with other sports, where I remember I saw this recent video of a kid with the Jets. He's a Jets fan, right? And the Jets had just lost, and he's sitting there like, I was born into this. I'm never going to leave, but I hate this team, you know? And like, that's what it is to be a fan. Like, you were born into this culture, you know, and they have that in Europe. Oh, England has that, you know, Spain, Germany, they were born into it. Their grandfather, their great grandfather was a Manchester United fan, or, you know, a Tottenham fan or something like that. So that's what I am. And it's like that. My dad was a Niners fan. I'm a Niners fan. You know what I mean? So that's what it is. And that's where we have to get to with soccer in the United States. And I think we're getting there, where like, once you get to like that second and third generation where, you know, I'm a fan because that's what my culture is. That's when the game is really going to continue to take off. And I think it's getting there. You know, there's people out there that are European fans for sure. But when you start to hear people like, I'm a Nashville fan because my dad was a Nashville fan, my grandfather was a Nashville fan. Like, we're not there yet. Nashville's not old enough. You know what I mean? But that's where it will be. And I'm excited to see that, it's coming for sure. It's getting better, but it takes generations for it to really be ingrained in culture.
Totally. Well, I mean, like, if it's an indication, right? Sent you a picture the other night as I'm at a Sac Republic game here in Sacramento with my 10-year-old son and the owner and founder of the company that I am tasked with running, and we're building out, Big Valley Mortgage, Kurt Reisig, who was kind enough to hook us up with tickets. And my son's wearing a Messi jersey, and that is not the first time. He is a Messi fan through and through.
That's great.
Typical fashion, you made sure to remind me that once again, soccer was beating the basketball route in our conversation with
there you
him.
Go, man.
But yeah, he's a big Messi fan, and if I want to be a superhero dad, I get him a meeting with Messi one day, or an autograph from Messi. Yeah, I'll be a superhero dad on that front. So I've got my mission. Michael Jordan, that was mine growing up. Messi is his.
Yeah.
So
that's wild. That's cool. I told you, man. I told you back in the day. We're cooler.
You did. Speaking of which, I mean, your career, you moved into coaching. You did a lot, and we'll dig into that. But before we pivot into that, let's rewind it back a little bit here to like competition and culture and kind of growing up. I mean, we have the history as 18-year-old kids, actually 17 at the time, roommates, hanging out, kind of building a competitive culture. We had a lot of great memories, a lot of fun, bonding moments. I still to this day can't look at a Moose without being traumatized. I
do have one story about your basketball buddies though.
Let's go with it.
So we used to play this game. It was a PlayStation 2 game. It was called SOCOM, and it was like Navy SEALs online. It's like one of the first online shooters you could play. It's like a third-person shooter, kind of like Fortnite, but you're Navy SEALs and stuff like that. And I was playing up in my room, and you had the basketball guys, like the whole team over, and for something, there's like 6 or 7 dudes, and I was playing this SOCOM game in my room, and just kind of chilling, and they all come in and like say what's up to me, and you guys are hanging out. I don't remember what you guys are doing. No.
So it's changed, and I think there's good and there's bad, because I certainly know how it affected, my career, not necessarily being able to just move at will, right?
Yeah.
But what do you talk about, like, for you, that the impact of having your journey, like sticking to it and having that like chance to kind of come out on the other side in a way when, that's just definitely not something that really happens much these days.
No, I don't know if it's different. Maybe I think it's a disservice sometimes when the transfer portal is good for things that need to move on, and there's different reasons for the transfer portal being good, right? Maybe you outgrow a program, or you want to go somewhere and be in a different league or different division or something like that. But I do think that it's too much right now. Every level I played soccer, I failed at first. Like I told you, when I was 11 or 12, I failed at playing on that select team. I was the backup goalkeeper in high school. I didn't even like play my high school in high school, like, which is, kind of in the soccer world. High school soccer is a little bit not as serious as club soccer, and I failed at that. I failed at club soccer. When I was in Fresno, I redshirted for 2 years. When I was a pro, I rode the bench for multiple years. For most of my career, I was a backup, right? And that grind is something that I have learned to stick with, and it takes incredible patience, and it takes a different thought process, because I had to think about, how can I affect the team in a different way? If I'm not playing, how can I help the team win? And I think that is something that very few players have nowadays, is how can I help the team win? How can I help the team win when I'm not playing? And so, like, it was a team first mentality throughout my whole career. And that like competitive spirit, it's something that's it's not, I wouldn't say it's lightning in a bottle. I think a lot of teams have that competitive spirit, but we had a really great culture, and every year, the end of the season, there's trades, there's cuts, there's this guy's in, this guy's out, and it's hard to maintain that culture through every year and build on it, right? Yep. And so, like, I became a part of this team, and I was trying to figure out ways to help the team. I wasn't playing, but I feel like I could help the young guys really understand that competitive culture and what it is to be a pro, and how to be excellent in training every day, and do things right, and challenge yourself and stay after. I was always the guy staying after. If you guys wanted shots, I'll stay after with you. I'll jump in goal for you while you want to get your shots in, and help you get better. And that's where I hung my hat, and so we won. So I helped these guys develop through those couple of years. And then when we won in 2013, I wasn't on the field. I didn't play. I was on the bench, but I felt like connected to the guys. I felt like I helped those guys win it. You know what I mean? I wasn't the guy on the field. I didn't get the recognition. I didn't need that. I needed to see those guys succeed. And I think that's kind of really how I've evolved, and how I've always been. And athletics has really helped me become that person where I want to see other people succeed. That's where I hang my hat. I don't have to be the person, with the lights on me and all that. I want someone else to be that person. I want to help you get there, and that's really helped me in my leadership journey, from what I'm doing now to my coaching journey. Like, I want this team to do well. I want to see these people rise up and to this occasion and succeed. And that's what brings me joy.
Well, bringing, as we hit the the home stretch to kind of wrap. There's so much more that you and I can go into, so we're gonna have to do another one of these sooner than later. And we're already talking about bigger and better discussions for the future here. But the impact of those messages and those moments of instilled belief that you received in your early years, and the journey that you went on, and now being in leadership roles where you're passing that along, it's proof through and through that when you make an impact on somebody, that oftentimes translates to them being able to do the same thing forward. And now you're doing that with people, and you're you spent time, obviously, like you mentioned, you coached in Portland, coached with the Sac Republic, and now you're leading and running a branch and a team in the business side of things. What do you think, as we kind of wrap, what's the single most impactful personal lesson? You touched on like leadership and affecting people, but for you now as a father and a husband, and the real world life that you live in, what's the one thing that you carry most that gets you to the state of success and kind of right mindset from your athletic journey?
I guess the lesson is like success isn't necessarily just given to you. You can be a talented person, and I feel like being steady and consistent every day and grinding every day gets you to where you want to go in the long run. And it's not someone else's journey. And if you sit there and focus on other people and how they're having this success and that success, it's going to be a hard journey for you. It's more about myself and competing with myself and setting my own goals and setting my own standards, and then also just and helping people along. If I'm crossing the river, if I'm crossing the river and I'm successful getting to where I want to go, the first thing I want to do is turn around and throw a rope. I want to throw a rope to that next person and pull them across too, and help them find success. And I think that's a big part of leadership. And what I'm doing now is there's a lot of people that want to get somewhere that they're not at yet. And I want to help them get there, and it brings a heck of a lot of joy. And I think it's good for a culture to have someone like that has someone rooting for you and someone that believes in you. And that's an early lesson I learned from my family, from my parents, and we talked about it earlier on in this conversation. Like, when you believe in someone that might not believe in themselves, when you see something in someone and they don't see it, and to convince them that they're capable of something, and then you see them succeed, like, what a feeling. We talked a little bit about having children and how prideful we are to see our children do something that is brave or that is fun or cool or whatever, and how much more pride you have in that than you've ever had in yourself. And It's so true. Like I have never been so proud of myself than I am of other people. And I find way more joy in seeing and helping other people achieve their goals than me achieving my goals. And that is kind of my goal, right? That my goal is to help people achieve their goals. So that's where I find my pride, and that's where I find, where I can help in terms of leadership and stuff like that. And it's helped me through my career because, I had moments where I was the guy, but most of my career I had to find other ways to find purpose. And that's, I guess that's kind of in a nutshell, right? Like that's who I am, and that's what I've been. And I feel like it's really served me well as a player. And I'm super thankful for my career. Like I could look back and say, oh, my career, I was a backup most of my career. Oh, like I didn't do this, I didn't do that. But man, I am so thankful for the career I had. I had a 12-year career. Who can say that? You know, I went to Cal. I graduated from Cal. Who can say that? You know, I was I did a lot of things, you know, and I'm really proud of where it got me, you know, and where I am today, and the family I have, the wife I have, and the life I have. It's just, I wouldn't change anything. You know, I wouldn't, if I had won 7 championships and that meant I didn't have my family, my wife, no thanks.
No doubt. Well, and that's the kind of man you are. And I think, you know, in what you're doing today and in business, like, you're built to be a leader that puts your team first and helps people succeed. And as we'll wrap here, but give a quick rundown of what you're doing today, and just you know, how you're leading, what the business you're in. I you know, the word scaffolding comes to mind, but just give a quick rundown of what you're doing today.
I'll do a quick one. So basically what happened was I was coaching in up here in Portland, and needed a change of pace. I was kind of done coaching because of the schedule. I couldn't coach on the weekends anymore. I wanted to go see my family, you know, play soccer and be a part of my family's lives for once, because I'd put playing and coaching kind of first for a long time. So I got into this company called API Group. And it's a construction company, and they're basically broken up into life safety, which is fire safety, sprinklers and stuff like that, and then a specialty group that focuses on scaffolding, mechanical insulation, stuff like that. But the great thing about API is they look for people with leadership potential. And they look in places that a lot of other companies don't look. They look for ex-military and athletes, ex-athletes. So I was an ex-athlete, obviously, and applied to be in this leadership development program. It was a year-long program, and I didn't have a ton of business experience. And I got to basically do a crash course on business with 7 different companies, and work with the leaders of these 7 different companies that are inside this umbrella group of API Group, and got to learn everything I possibly could in that year. And at the end of that long process, I was able to select. I got multiple offers to go to multiple different branches, and I ended up selecting a branch here in Portland called API Construction that's focused on scaffolding. And it was a heck of a journey, and right now I have a team of about 3 people underneath me, with a bunch of field leaders underneath them, and we're doing some great work in terms of scaffolding in the Portland area, and there's so many parallels with the trades in athletics. It's wild, you know. Just, I wasn't in the trades growing up. I was really focused in athletics, but man, I tell you, gosh, I'm so in awe of what these people can build, how smart they are, how talented they are, how hardworking they are, how they work together. It's like a locker room. It's people from all different walks of life working together to get things done. And you know, I'm just really cool. I'm really lucky to have landed in a place that aligns with kind of my career in the past. And so, yeah, we have a scaffold team here that it's pretty fast paced, and we're problem solving all the time, which is something that I'm used to doing from my past career. And I just love it. I love working with the people I work with, and it's wild to think, because I'd never even thought about it. And you know, talking about my parents again, but they go travel in the world. They're retired now, and you know, they'll be in Asia, and they're in France, and they're sending me pictures of scaffolding now. You know, it's like they're always supporting me. Whatever
that is your parents.
That's my parents. So here we are again, and they're supporting what I'm into and what I'm doing. And you know, I'm just blessed to have such a great family, great kids, and great wife, and to be doing something that I feel like is making a difference. Like athletics is great, but this is something like we're building great things, and we're building great people, and that's kind of the ethos of API Group is we're building great leaders. We want to build people that are great at their job, but not just great at their job. They're great fathers. They're great spouses. They're great mothers. They're great siblings, and
Yep.
they're great people. And I really identify with that company for focusing on that. And when I was a player back in the day, one of the coaches, the Kansas City coach, he always focused on, it's not the result. We're not playing for the result. We're playing our style. We're playing our brand, and the result will come. Right. And I think API Group, their brand is we are building great leaders. We're building great people, and the result will shine through, and it totally does. So it's a fun company to be a part of, and I'm thankful to be a part of it. But it's where I am now, and I foresee being here for a long time, and helping grow this branch and grow this company, because it's something I really believe in, and I'm really thankful to be a part of.
Well, I know you will be successful in it. I know anyone that's in your sphere is going to benefit from your leadership, your consistency, your competitiveness, and be in the sphere of a phenomenal human being, man. I really appreciate you jumping on and doing this. I know we're going to have to do more, but I'm going to go home and lick my wounds now that I have had to relive my moose trauma, and remembering that. But remember a lot of fond times, and for the journey that you've been on, and the stick-to-itiveness, and for a 12-year career, and all the things that you just described. I appreciate you sharing it, man. And with that, appreciate it. Thanks for watching, everybody. Another episode of the Triple J Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Phil Rasmussen. Eric Kronberg, 12-year MLS vet, goalie, resident psycho in the body demolition and tossing his body around, but phenomenal father, professional, and we'll be back again.